the Institute for Public Policy and Professional Practice, or I4P for short. What does it mean for me? Well, in some ways, obviously, the clue is in the title, but I'd want to start by saying something perhaps about education, about universities. I'm a great believer that education is a transformational experience, and it should be a transformational experience for the students of education, but actually also it should be a transformational experience for the communities in which students work and support. And if you look at Edge Hill over the years, now 130 years of history, you can see actually that running through. Initially obviously starting as an education training of people who are going to work in the teaching profession, but also actually those young teachers, those young graduates actually working, educating dock workers in the big dock workers strike in 1910, being influential in the Labour Party, producing the first woman barrister, the first woman to prosecute a case or to defend a case actually at the Old Bailey. And that shows the way in which education can and should integrate with its communities. The Institute for Public Policy and Professional Practice is a very important part of that. Over the last 10 or 15 years or so, the university's had a really strong reputation for going out there, working in the community, working with voluntary groups, upskilling those voluntary groups to enable them to fulfill really successful roles in the community. In some ways, I guess that perhaps ties up with what people talk of around a big society agenda, but I actually prefer to see it as something rather more around the corporate responsibility of universities, of university staff, and also something which builds on that energy, that enthusiasm, that commitment of hundreds and hundreds of students every year. And certainly within this university, it is many hundreds of students who actually engage themselves in working out there in the community. About 40% of graduates actually go out to work in the public sector, and it's absolutely vital that those individuals understand the context of public policy, understand the extent to which we can make a difference in those public services. And in this university, which is the largest provider of teachers in the country, one of the half a dozen biggest providers of nurses and other health professionals, a university which actually through its business school is committed actually to working with the public sector and with voluntary groups. This is the kind of university and this is the kind of initiative which can make enormous difference. Now, how does the Institute make that difference? Well, yes, it makes it by being out there in places like Rochdale, developing community champions. It helps it by running master's programs, to develop sort of public sector and voluntary sector, management amongst staff. It helps it actually by bringing people from the community onto campus. We run things like guest lecture series, short courses, a whole range of provision which actually helps the university to play an absolutely key role in enhancing people's life chances out there in the broader community. It's not the only thing the university does. We have a number of other institutes as well. One actually working around creative enterprise, encouraging the development of incubators, encouraging self-employment. Our business school students and our computing students work with SMEs, helping them develop websites and actually to use technology more effectively. The days when a business could simply advertise in yellow pages are long, long gone. And our work in medicine. We have an Institute for Postgraduate Medical Education in which we're developing the skills of the National Health Service. We're actually working with carers, for example, working with actually people who, to enable disabled young children actually to spend their lives at home rather than actually in and out of hospitals. From my perspective, actually, universities have the capacity to change lives. Committed academics, committed students, but most important of all, perhaps, a real focus on initiatives like the Institute for Public Policy and Professional Practice are the things that can make a real difference. Thanks for listening.